5.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another
live broadcast of Salt with Miranda, Brett, and Aspen over on Tech. Yay! So, once again, we are just I'm monitoring Facebook here. So, if you have a comment or a question or anything I say, just type in anything you've got for us. We're going to keep watching that. Also, last time people let us know if something was going wrong. So, like if you have trouble hearing or volume or something's off, let us know. Because we want to make sure you can see and hear and everything. So I'm typing in, "Hi everyone," and sending it. There you go. All right. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of different things, but part of it is, how's your week been? Has anybody had any major events in life take place during our fun quarantine time together? I did. It was just a little bit ago, but I had my very first and hopefully last root canal. You know, I've gone through my life and I've seen all these jokes about, oh, I'd rather have root canal than da-da-da, and like it's this really bad thing. Well, it was interesting because our dentist office is closed down. But if you're a long-time member, like if you're a patient or something, you can call the dentist at home and everything. And I woke up one night and I just really had pain in my my teeth. And I don't know if you've ever done this. I did not know this was a sign of infection in your teeth. I was laying down and it hurt, right? And so I would sit up and it would stop hurting. And it was just really weird. And I thought, okay, I've got something bizarre going on, because when I lay back down, the pain came back. When I sat back up and walked around, it went away. I was like, weird. So the next day I called the dentist, and he said, oh yeah, I know what it is, come in. As soon as I told him that's what was happening, he said, I know exactly what it is. So I went in, and apparently that is a classic symptom of an infection where you need a root canal. So it was kind of interesting because I went in, and he was there, and he had one of his assistants there. And you know, normally you go in, you do the x-rays, all right, well, we're going to schedule you later, and we'll come in, and you know, and a week later you'll actually have whatever the procedure is. So he's like, yep, it's just what I thought it was. And yeah, he was wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, and so he looked at his assistant and said, you doing anything? He says, no. He said, you doing anything? I was like, no. He said, no. You want to do it right now? I'm like, okay. So we all had nothing to do, so we did my root canal. It was pretty interesting though. It was fun because just before we started, he said, all right, I tell you what, I can either put you under using gas, or I can just hit you with a rowboat paddle. I found myself, I was kind of in that either or situation.
Good
either
one.
or.
Yeah. They're all laughing, you know they are.
I can feel your laughter through the internet. Thank you. Actually, all of that is true except for the gas part. I didn't get put under. So, anyway, it's been fun. Miranda and I have talked a little bit about how quarantining, has been different for different people. It'd be interesting if you're watching and you tell us a little bit how how it's been for you. Have you had any challenges, and is it something you've actually enjoyed, something it's just tearing you apart, like, oh, I got to get out of the house, because sometimes couples are having harder times because all of a sudden they're together all the time. And we were talking it's really not that big a deal for us. It's not that far out of normal, because being introverts, like a family of introverts, it's kind of like, oh, vacation, sorry. I mean, hey.
Yes, we don't have to go to any Saturday night obligations.
Yeah.
Or, we don't have to come up with an excuse not to go over. Or
Yes,
yeah.
So, and I know it's different for different people. But I was thinking, it made me think, I wonder what would have been the first quarantine would have been like, and who would have been the first quarantine. And I found a video that kind of shows what it must have been like for the first couple who ever had to experience quarantining together. Aspen?
Adam, does this goat skin make me look big?
Looks better on you than the previous owner. What?
I'm having a hard time losing these last few pounds since bearing your children And that's the best you can do? I look better than a goat? Thanks.
Babe, you know you are the most beautiful woman on the planet. What?
I'm the only woman on the planet.
Well, I can't help that.
You know, and it's amazing that as the only woman on the planet, you still can't seem to remember my birthday or give me flowers once in a while.
Well, I did give you a rib.
Oh, right. I forgot about that, since you haven't mentioned it for an hour. It's like your free pass to never lift a finger for me again.
Never lift a finger. I am out there busting my rear all day. Food just doesn't pop up from the ground. I have to get it with the sweat of my brow, since someone went and got the ground cursed.
You think farming's hard? Try raising those kids. Try giving birth.
Well, if someone wouldn't have taken advice from a talking reptile.
Oh, here we go.
Are you talking to me, you little snake? What? Oh, jump off a bridge? Oh, I would, but they haven't been invented yet. Oh, eat this fruit? Well, you look like a pretty trustworthy snake.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, well, we were until you went and pretty much ruined it for all of mankind, so good job with that.
I seem to remember you taking a bite, too.
Well, I thought I was eating from the tree of the knowledge of restfulness and serenity.
Right. It's never your fault.
Besides, what was I gonna do with a fallen wife? That would just be weird.
Oh, you fell for me? You're an idiot.
Idiot, I named every single animal.
Right. Great job with that. A prairie dog's not a dog. A seahorse isn't a horse, and a bald eagle isn't bald.
Well, I was going pretty fast.
Aardvark? Platypus?
Okay, they were at the back of the line. Not everything can be cat or rat or bat.
Hippopotamus?
Yeah, well, woman was taken. Okay, how many gourds do you have back there? That was a joke. Not good for men to be alone.
No, it's great.
Oh, hey, that was fun, wasn't it? We're nothing like that at all. Zero like that. So,
It's
moving
true.
on.
I know he makes it sound like he's telling a joke, but he's not.
I'm not. It's actually true. We actually do really well together. One thing we do is we sit around and we talk about this stuff, which is a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
And
We-
this is our fun stuff.
Yeah, we get
Yeah.
to kick around. Actually, Miranda usually comes up with an idea, and then I play off something that it sparks an idea in me, and we go back and forth. It's a lot of fun. But speaking of being in isolation and looking for things to do, how can you be a force to help make the world a better place while we're in quarantine? So it's time for another section of the SALT live streaming service called Helping Hands. So I thought it would be interesting to maybe every now and then throw something out that while you're at home and have some time on our hands, what's something we can do from home to make the world a better place to help people out? One of the things I found online was a website called Be My Eyes. So I'm going to ask Aspen to throw that website up, and also with the URL address, and it's www.bemyeyes.com. That's the website. And they have a little thing, a little video to show you exactly what we're talking about.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. We're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes.
Connect to first available helper.
That's where you come in.
Establishing video connection.
Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button.
That's a nice picture of you and your family, Caroline. Is it well present? Yes, it's a photo from my parents.
You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app,
Gripped image.
and we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry. Someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
Okay, so yeah, download the app, and it's just kind of a cool, fun way you can be a help. And I think it explained it that, like, the person who's wanting help, will go on the app, and if it comes to you and you're busy, you just don't pick it up, or you decline it, and it goes to the next person. So you're not ever leaving someone hanging. The more people that are on it, obviously, the better chances that people are never going to have to wait to have somebody help them out to find stuff. So anyway, just a cool thing. Every now and then, if we do a live stream, we're going to try and find something like that and kick out to you. All right, so that was our helping hand section. As you know, if you've been watching, this is kind of a whole family affair that we're doing. So Miranda and I sit here and we do our talking back and forth and stuff. And Aspen is our tech. She's our studio manager, I guess you'd say. She's over on the iPad controlling everything and the audio. But Aspen has a section herself, and it's where we try to take things about science and nature and make object lessons out of them. So let's go to Aspen's object lesson section.
As you probably know, it's a very good idea to wear a mask when you go outside to help protect you and others around you. There are a bunch of different ways to make a mask. As you may have seen one of the hundreds of thousands of millions of videos on the internet on how to make a mask. And people use socks, coffee filters, bandanas, cat fur to make one. So right now, we're going to show you how we make our masks. Ta-da! Here's our cloth mask with a pocket inside for a filter. And that is how we made ours.
Okay, so that's kind of cool. Aspen's been making them for a bunch of different people, and we've got a couple here I was just going to show you that just so you can see the differences between approaches of mask making. Here's one of the ones that Aspen made. I think did you find it online? You found the pattern or the...
Yeah, the pattern's online.
Yeah, the pattern's online. It's completed, and as you saw in the video, it's got a little pocket somewhere. There. Little pocket that you throw in the filter. And people are using different stuff for a filter. We're using a MERV 13 AC filter. And the reason, welcome back.
Yeah, I was going to go get my mask that I made for me, but I'm not.
Oh, you're connected.
I'm connected. I'm tethered in Spot.
Yes,
so, yes.
Got her tether mic. Actually, take your mic because I'm going to show mine. Just to show you the different approaches that Miranda had to mask making and that I had to mask making. It's kind of fun. So so this is the one that Miranda or Aspen made. It's got the pleat, it's got the pocket, and again we were using a MERV 13 is what it's called. And the reason I was using it's MERV 13 if you want to make one. The idea for the mask is it filters in and out the virus, right? And so if you look at what are the microns, the size of the virus versus the micron size of a filter, what it lets pass through, MERV 13 is the first level of an AC filter that filters out virus. And so when you add that, your mask is way more effective of blocking things, either, going both ways. And here was another fun one that same kind as this one that Aspen made using wait, wasn't this one of my shirts?
Yeah, we've recycled these from T-shirts and Brett's shirt that was ripped. And
this was one of my shirts? Apparently you can make them out of shirts.
Yup.
Boy. And we had, in my shirt, anyway, we had, Miranda made one and I made one, and I'm going to have Miranda show you hers first and tell you about it.
Okay, well, we just had these classic dust masks sitting around, and they have the little nose pinch thing. And, they already come with the elastic on and everything. And so when we got the filter, I thought the easiest thing to do would just be to take it and create a circle. I can't pull it out right this second because I pinned it in with some safety pins right here, if you can see that. But yeah, I took it, cut it to the right size. I took a small ball so that I could press it. This has got wires in it. Press it into place and then turn down the edges so it's not poking me. And when you put it on, it fits fairly well, So yeah, you do what you can do, right?
So I thought I would improve upon the design.
Yeah.
And I came up with this.
It's very man-made.
I wanted it to look like a man had made it.
Yes,
so
it does.
I put the filter on the outside, and I didn't use the ball. I kind of punched it, because that's what I would do, punch it. And then I took, obviously, black tape, and I secured it, fastened the outer filter to the inner filter, right? And while I was cutting things up, I cut the band. But that's okay, because you can wrap it around, see, and you can tie this off. So when you put it on, see, you just have to take it and then bring it around.
Just so you know, he hasn't worn his yet.
And tie it on.
He's the one who gets to stay home.
This is... Okay, so anyway, so that's, yeah. So that's how if you don't want to go out. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so not just a project for today's world of making your own mask, but one of the things the mask made us think of was the spiritual point or spiritual allegory to the mask, and how the mask, when a mask, we're trying to filter out the virus and bad things for us. And what kind of filter do we actually go through life with? What kind of lenses or filters on our spiritual breathing do we have that filters things in and out? And Miranda's going to talk about that here in a little bit. But I want to show there's three main points for today. Moving into our main topic here, there's three main points. And number one is there is a God and you are not him. There is a God and you're not him. And the second is a Bible verse. And it's one that we hear a lot and maybe don't think of too often, but if you really look at the words, which I'm not seeing yet, but it talks about whatever we can think of, whatever we can imagine, whatever our tiny human brains can muster up. Far, far beyond that is what God has planned for us. Far beyond that, God's power working in us is way beyond anything we can ever imagine. So that in fact, it says immeasurably more. Immeasurably, take that word in, that you can't even measure how much God can do beyond what we can imagine. Great promise in Ephesians 3:20. And then the next is another good Bible promise. And if you start putting these together, you kind of get a big picture of there is a God, and it's not me. So there's something more powerful in my life that has power that's not me. And that God can do way more than I can ever imagine or ask him to do. In fact, I can't even measure what his imagination has for me. And the third one, we didn't get up. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Oh, the third one
Are we going
is
to talk about the snowstorm now?
the snowstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I got to do my story first.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, for the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. The foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom. So now we're going to have another section of our live streaming story time. So I want to tell you a story that really shows the difference between God's wisdom and man's wisdom, particularly mine. So way back when I was first getting started, I was looking for my first teaching job. And I had applied to a bunch of different places, and Florida Conference had called. And they said, we want to interview you for a teaching job. And I thought that was pretty cool. Florida, you know, being nice. And it was South Florida, as a matter of fact. At the time, it was called Greater Miami Academy, GMA. I'm not sure if that's still its name, but GMA down there in Miami. Now, it was interesting because when I was in college, I had to take this class. I had to take a science class. And I'm not this great big science person. And so I didn't want to take, you know, thermonucleic chemistry or intricacies of biology because I would never pass. So I'm looking for the easiest science course I can possibly take. And my roommate came up with the idea for ornithology. And that's the study of birds. If you didn't know, ornithology, study of birds. And I thought, well, how hard can that be? So I took ornithology with him, and one of the things that we had to do, that they didn't tell us beforehand, but one of the things we had to do is, for spring break, if you were in ornithology, you had to go on the spring break ornithology field trip. And me and my buddies had planned to go to Colorado to go snow skiing. So I was trying to come up with all these excuses to the teacher, you know, about, you know, oh, I'm not going to be able to go, I already had plans, da-da-da. And anyway, all the plans fell through, and I ended up going on the trip, which was fun and interesting. Because I had a car at the time, and they needed extra transportation. They had a school van, and he needed one more, and I said, well, I can take my car. Oh, yeah, everything's going to work out. So off we go to Florida, and we went down one side of Florida and up the other, and there's tons of stories I could tell you about the trip that was pretty interesting and fascinating. It turned out to be a great trip, a lot of fun. But on the trip, about halfway through, one of the stops we made was in Fort Lauderdale. And, you know, we were staying at schools and gyms and churches and stuff to save money. And so we stayed at this one little tiny school in Fort Lauderdale. And it was a tiny little Cracker Jack box of a gym, and it was like really bad. And the guys were like, hey, Brett, you could teach in a place like this. And you probably know what's coming. I said, I will never teach in a school like this. Fast forward about 6 years, and Florida Conference calls. They tell me it's Greater Miami Academy. I go down there to interview. Turns out they had already decided to hire somebody else. And so the educational superintendent said, look, there's this other school. Just go up here. Here's the address. Here's the directions. And just go up there and interview there because it's not working out here. So I got the directions, and I'm driving up. And as I'm driving in, trying to find this place, I start seeing things that look very familiar. And I thought, man, I've seen this before. And like, wow, this is familiar. And the closer I got, the more it dawned on me that, oh, no, it's that school. And I kept like, God, don't do this to me. Please, Lord, stop laughing. And the joke is over. Ha ha. Can we all go home now and do something different? And sure enough, I turned into their parking lot, and it was that same exact Cracker Jack box school that I had swore I would never teach at. And I must have seemed really arrogant in my interview because I knew I was hired. I knew it was a God-ordained thing. It was preordained, and I was going to be teaching there. So I'm sure I was like, yep, answering their questions. And finally they asked, so that'd be great. When do you think, you know, maybe give you some time to think about it? I said, nope, when do you want me here? And like, you don't want to even think about it? I was like, nope, done deal. God has ordained, I am going to teach here. And there it was. Sure that God is laughing the whole time. But it just goes to show you, I had in my mind the things I was going to do, and I was going to start off, teaching in high school and academy, and I was going to start off at the top. And here, God had different plans for me to teach it. My first class was 5 students. That was my first class. It turned out to be an incredible, amazing experience. It turned out to be exactly what I needed at the time that I didn't know that I needed. And I'll bet a lot of you guys have same stories, things where God has done something for you and, you at the time you had no idea that that's what you needed or even wanted. But it turns out because our vision of life and ourselves and what we need is so small compared to God's wisdom.
Right, that's right. So it snowed here this last week. I think it was on Thursday. It snowed on Thursday.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I mean, now it looks like your classic spring day out there. Green grass is back. But we had at least, 6 to 8 inches of snow. Yeah, so it was probably Tuesday, Brett and I had talked about what we were going to talk about today. And so it was on, Thursday I was sitting there in my chair in the living room and I was looking out the big picture window and all that snow was coming down and it was a big snowstorm because usually if I want to know the weather, I don't have to look at the weather. I can just call my sister who lives in Colorado and find out what she's having that day, and the very next day we're going to have what they had. Yeah. This snowstorm was big enough that it started snowing here and they were still having snow in Colorado. So anyways, I was sitting in my chair and I was thinking about the illustration of what I could use for God's wisdom versus man's wisdom. And God has really good illustrations out in nature. So as I watched the snow come down, I thought that was a lot of snowflakes out there. And I mean, storm-wide, there's a lot of snowflakes. And so as humans, all of us, as a generalized rule, like to think that we're pretty smart, smarter than other people, smarter and wiser than other people. We like to think that. And yet we also like to think that we're not prideful. I'm not quite sure how that works out. Pride kind of blinds us to things like that. Pride blinds us to it. So anyways, as I was watching all the snowflakes come down, I thought, you know what? Our wisdom is so small, but God's wisdom is like all of those snowflakes out there. All of them, and more of course, but all the snowflakes storm-wide put down, I mean, you couldn't even begin to count them. And yet if we went out and we picked up one small snowflake and we looked at it under the microscope, all of the crystal facets and such underneath there would be mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. And that would, just one of those, one snowflake would be the beginning, barely the beginning of our comprehension of God's wisdom. Mm-hmm. God's wisdom is far vaster than that, and yet in one snowflake, our wisdom wouldn't even begin to compare to that.
Mm-hmm. I want to, and when she was talking about the snowflake thing, and I like to kind of like imagine Jesus doing things with us like he did with the disciples and everything. And Jesus was telling, the kingdom of God is like this. So I want you to imagine for a second, if you were in part of the country where there was snow, go with me. If you were part of the country that didn't have snow, imagine the snow is either sand or dirt. But I was just thinking it would be like, Jesus coming, and as I put his arm around, I was like, so I want to tell you something. The kingdom of God, God's wisdom is like that snowflake. You see that snowflake? You can look at it, and in one tiny little snowflake, there's more than you can imagine, the more can you understand. And now imagine all of this snow is the beginning of the intricacies of God's wisdom. So when Miranda was talking about that, well, when she first started talking about that, I was standing at the window going, oh no, snow. And Aspen was going, snow! and then she was like, and I thought, that's a great object lesson. It's true. We could be fascinated and enthralled over one tiny flake.
It's true, and it's too bad we aren't more enthralled with that. We tend to get a little more enthralled with our own wisdom. Brett liked the fact that he would never teach at a little tiny rinky-dink school like that.
Yeah.
Turns out God thought it was a great plan.
Yep.
You know, a really great plan, and clearly his wisdom, Brett figured out was best.
Best for us. Yeah, I mean, there's an old meme. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it. It's an old saying. It's like if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans for the day.
Yeah, don't tell him where you're not going to live.
Yeah, because
Never
we've
tell
done
him
that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to live. Vegas was one.
Yeah.
I'm never going to live in Las Vegas. Las Vegas people, nothing against
And nothing against you, yeah.
It was God's will that we went there, and it was one of those, like, I could have never imagined it would have been this awesome.
Yeah, we're just not big city people.
Yeah, just not big
Yeah.
city people. And I was like, oh, I could never live in Las Vegas. And we did for 5 years.
Yes, 5 years.
5 years.
And you've experienced that a couple more times. You said, I'm never going back there.
Oh, yeah, I went to, you're talking about Highland View?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was in college, I went task force working for 1 year at a school called Highland View Academy up in Maryland. And it was a good experience. I got a lot out of it. There are a lot of good things that happened. But when I drove away, I thought, I will never see this place again. I am never coming back here. And it was actually at the end of our Vegas time that you found that she was looking for jobs. I'm still looking for a job, by the way. Hire me. And she found all these jobs on, and one was Highland View Academy.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of funny because he'd applied to several other jobs up to that point in time, and we could have stayed in Vegas if we had wanted to, but after 5 years there, we decided that if we found something else that we would go ahead and move. And so I found it rather interesting that there were any number of jobs that had been probably similar to that one in Maryland, and he never was particularly interested. He was somewhat resistant to that. And yet, when I brought up this, school, and it wasn't particularly big either, he was very interested.
Yes, it was the same Florida experience. I was like, no, God, don't do this again, please. This will now be like the 5th time in my life where I said I would never. So I started thinking, like, what all things have I said, I'll never do this, and I need to make a list so I know that's where we're headed
that's
next.
where we're going next, yeah.
I will never win the lottery. I've been saying that for a long time now.
You can't win if you don't play.
Can't win if you don't play. But yeah, it's true, and it doesn't hurt to have plans. I'm not saying don't have plans.
Right.
We're not saying don't plan for things, but the perspective that at least kind of, what I've come up with is I can have plans and I can do, the common sense things. We look for jobs, we put the resumes out, you go, but understand that, well, 2 things. One, as Miranda always reminds me, God already has it worked out. Whatever it's supposed to be, it's already been put into place.
He's
it's already
known about
there.
it for eons, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we were born, he already had our life plan. So wherever you're at, with whatever of the unknown that you might have in your life right now, and I know people have told you this, but it's true. God already has the plan. It's already worked out. It's just bringing us along. And 2, going back to our 3 points for the day, our verses, it's beyond what you can imagine. It's beyond what you can even ask for.
Right, because he's worked it out so perfectly, you can see that he's the one who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you probably won't know it till after the fact. And that's what a lot of times we get someplace and we look at it, and now we can look back and go, that's how God did it. Mm-hmm. And when you're right in the moment, it's hard to see the details. It's hard to see what's going on because you're living it and you're like this close to it.
Right. And once again, we tend to look at our own wisdom that says, oh my goodness, I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
That's our wisdom, and what do I do to get myself to the next place?
Yeah.
And
what you can do, and we keep going like an hour or so, but it's just fun talking to you guys. It's just fun to do this. So like what I tend to be able to get into, I think a little easier than Miranda, is I get into sometimes a negative thought cycle, because we live life kind of in cycles, don't we? Like, if we do A, it leads to B, which leads to C, which leads to D. And so if I have a life event, like I lose my job, and that makes me feel stressed and afraid because I don't have a job and I don't know what's coming up, and then I start to panic and I can't sleep and bad things happen, and I get into this routine. I'll never find a job. Oh my gosh. And I start going down this spiral and I go this cycle, right? That's like a fear worry cycle. There's a resentment cycle. I lose my job. I'm going to blame, well, so-and-so did this and da-da-da, and I'm going to imagine revenge on them because it's their fault I lost my job. And then I get this resentment cycle going. And it's what we choose to focus on, how we choose to react that puts us in these cycles. And we can get caught in a cycle of fear. We can get caught in a cycle of resentment. We can get caught in a cycle of all kinds of things. But Miranda, again, this was a while back, but she came up once with this idea. It was what'd you call it? The cycle of peace?
The circle of peace.
Circle of peace, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes, actually a lot of times when I go to pray in the morning, I'll ask God what he wants me to pray for. Well, one morning it was just this little teeny, tiny voice that said peace. And I figured I was making that up because I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to pray for something that was strong and mighty, right? Who needs that little weenie sounding thing like peace, right? So I put it off. I put it off for just a little bit, kind of argued with the voice a little bit, but several times, just kept coming back, peace. And I was like, all right, I said, well, why would you want me to pray for peace? If that's you, God, why would you want me to pray for that? So God said, well, if you have peace, then you will have strength. And if you have strength, then you have victory. And I said, wait 1 second, God, let me get my pen. I'm not going to remember this, So I got my pen, and he said, so if you have peace, you have strength. If you have strength, you have victory. And if you have victory, you have joy. And joy and peace walk hand in hand. And so I just called it the circle of peace, because peace is clearly mighty and strong. And it has strength. If you're the only person in the room with peace and the others don't have peace, clearly you are the one with strength. And that strength brings victory by the power of God, of course. And that victory always brings us joy. God's victory brings us great joy.
Yeah. And I love it. It so resonated with me that, how the peace, and it leads to strength. Because if I'm at peace, I'm not losing sleep. I'm not, flapping away in fear. Peace will give me strength. Strength gives me that victory. Victory gives me joy. I have victory over whatever's the unknown in my life. And it's this really cool cycle that you get into. You have peace, joy, love, victory. And I was trying to find a visual for that. And I don't know if you've seen it. Do we have the dog-cat video? This is the difference between living in the cycle of peace, the cat, and the cycle of me, the dog.
Are there two of them?
So I just thought that was kind of a fun little illustration of, how to live in peace and victory around the obstacles of life, and how to just throw yourself full on into it. I tend to be the dog that comes around the corner like, here I am,
Yes, but it looks impossible to walk across that, like the cat does. But with God's help, that's how God walks through it, and we're just to be walking right behind Him.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, like He tells us, step here, guiding us through all that. So, guiding us through this time, we're still, if you joined us a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the land between. That's, being in a place of the unknown, of where we were traveling down the highway of happiness, and all of a sudden we have this mass exit into the land of the unknown, the fear, between where we were and where we want to be. And we looked at it kind of like an illustration between the children of Israel being in their land between, delivered from Egypt and the promised land, and wandering around the desert, and that was their land between. And the idea that we were talking about when we were putting this together was that, there is God. He's got all power. And we can tell these stories, and I'm sure you can too, of times God led in your life. One of the things we think is that there's no greater fear than that we forget how God has led us in the past. I saw because I love movies, it's a movie reference. It's from a movie called Excalibur, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And Merlin, one of his best lines in that movie is, "It is the doom of men that they forget," which is absolutely true. When we forget about how God's led us in the past and worked in our lives in the past, then we lose the ability to have some of this peace and joy and victory in the present, So it's good. There is a God, and He has led in your life. He can do far more than you can ask or imagine. And the way He does it, the wisdom that He has, probably is going to seem foolish to us. But His wisdom and His power is so much greater than ours. And if we put our faith and trust in that, we find that we can hang on through whatever we're going through. And we can hang on in this land between, even if there's unknown. Even if there is fear, we can hang on in the land between and have the cycle of peace and strength and victory and joy. And a while back, I wrote a song, and this is going to be something I don't do a whole lot. Aspen's going to give me my guitar. And I wrote this song way, way back called Hang On. And some of you know it. I have no idea how this is going to play over the internet. Boy, I haven't even warmed up. I don't know if I'll do the whole song or not. But anyway, we're going to try and put a version of the song together this next week and put it out. But as a little bit of a preview, I want to do a little bit of the song for you. And it's something about hanging on in the land between, hanging on during this time, and putting your faith and trust in God, and knowing how He's led you in the past is a promise that He's going to continue to lead you into the future. All right, here we go. Some of you older guys will remember the tune from another 50s song, but I kind of took it over. Moses and the children just left Egypt land, and the Pharaoh was a-comin', he was close at hand. He cried out, "Lord, we can't cross the sea. How can we ever be free?" And God said, "Hang on, Moses, Moses, hang on. Come on and hang on, Moses, Moses, hang on." And the children of Israel in the wilderness, they seen 40 long years of a loneliness. They cried out, "Lord, this desert is hot. Will we see the promised land or not?" And God said, "Hang on, children, children, hang on. Come on and hang on, children, children, hang on." And Noah built him a mighty ark, and he preached to the people from morning till dark. And they all laughed and said he was wrong. God said, "Noah, be strong. You got to hang on, Noah, Noah, hang on. Come on and hang on, Noah, Noah, hang on." Now everybody is not the same. We all got trouble and we all got pain. When the laughs of the world hurt your spiritual health, surrounded by the armies of the devil himself, say whatever God asks, He gives us strength to do. By the power of His word, He will see you through. Cry out, "Lord, I'm weak, but you can make me free." Quote a promise to the devil, and soon you will see. You can hang on, children, children, hang on. tour coming soon. I don't know why we do that. But anyway, for your Sabbath entertainment. But the truth is, I like the last verse of that song. You know, everybody's not the same. We all got trouble. We all got pain. When the laughs of the world hurt your spiritual health, and you feel like you're surrounded by the armies of the devil himself. Say whatever God asks, He gives the strength to do. By the power of His word, He will see you through. Cry out, Lord, I'm weak, but you can make me free. Quote a promise to the devil, and then you'll see that you can hang on. And when we live with the filter of God's promises, and that's how we see our life and life around us, we can hang on in this land between because we know there's a God, and it's not us. We know He can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, and that His wisdom is far beyond anything we can think, and His vision is far greater than us. And how He's led us in the past gives us promise and hope for leading us in the future. So thanks for joining us. Again, we just do this because it's fun and we enjoy it. No real big thing here, but
And it's fun to see you guys.
it's awesome to see you guys. And good morning to everybody. We see Melanie and Decille and Joy,
Yeah, and
Lisa and Lee Bradley. Hey guys. So
Carla,
hey.
Vince, we're going to assume.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next Sabbath.